Hi, my name is Renan. I'm a client liaison manager and marketing coordinator with Smith Life Home Care. I'd like to welcome all the new caregivers to our orientation. With me, I have Mr. Michael Catalina. He's one of our caregivers who just received our Caregiver of the Month award. He has been recognized by a lot of his clients for his outstanding performance, and I just want to cover a couple of the topics with Michael here on what makes a great caregiver. Again, we want to welcome all of you to our team, and we hope you can walk away with something from this presentation. In doing my follow-ups with Michael, a lot of the clients say that he's very personable, he takes great care of the clients, and he's very assertive with his work. Michael, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it's been a pleasure to be here.
Likewise, likewise. Thank you very much. So, Michael, can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
I have been a caregiver for 5 years. Before becoming a caregiver, I have had an internship at University of Maryland at the psychiatry department for 8 months and 3 months in the rehab.
And with your internship, what did you do with your internship?
Internship, it's basically it's related for people that has mental problems like schizophrenia and everything. And paperworks, these are most about the social service. So it's kind of like a social work. And then the other part of the internship that I did, which is from University of Maryland, is the one at the rehab department, where I had to do a lot of physical work, like fixing up the beds and then cleaning up, after when the patient has left, the room, or when it's needed, for the therapist, that they need a clean space, for them to be using.
Interesting. And can you tell everybody what's the certification you have, and when did you start working with Smith Life Home Care again?
I worked with Smith Life Home Care since 2018.
Wow. Okay. And what certification do you have?
I have a certified nursing assistant certification. I also have a physical therapist aid certification.
Oh, very impressive.
And several referral letters
Well,
by previous employees.
Again, on behalf of our team, we want to thank you first for everything that you've done. As a client liaison, I'm always following up with the clients, basically to see how the service is going and to see how we can refine the service. Everything has momentum, and we want to make sure we're always going in the right direction. Every time that I've talked to one of your clients, I don't want to name any by name, but you just had one that kept raving about you. So in the client's raving about you, can you tell us what makes you great? What makes a great caregiver?
Well, some of it is personal. It's like, my personal touch. I am a very kind, loving person, and yet at the same time, I'm very understanding, sympathetic, of course, and compassionate of what I'm doing.
Great. Yeah, I think that being compassionate is very powerful. Also, just genuinely caring for people as you would want your loved one cared. I know that my parents are stepping up into that generation of within the next 10 years needing care. So every time that we're working with a client, I think about, what if that was my mother or my father in that seat? So let's dive a little bit into like the compassion part of it, right? So can you tell me a little bit about how do you express that compassion? How, when you walk into that house and you're first meeting a client, how do you make that connection with them?
Well, first off, if I'm coming in to a client's house, is to observe and see what's happening out there, and of course, introduce yourself to your client and address them for the way they want it to be addressed, and acknowledge them, of course, for who they are as a person, and let them express themselves, to you, of the way they feel of who they are as a real person as they are.
Yeah, and I could imagine that that would be challenging in the aspect that every household is different. So some households are kosher homes,
Yes.
and you have to understand those traditions and the expectations of those kosher homes. Some clients like a passive caregiver where it's not overly assertive, but a lot of the clients prefer that assertive caregiver that's going to understand the tasks and really know what needs to be done. Can you speak a little bit to that? Understanding the tasks. How do you understand the tasks? Understand the family, and they have their goal, and you have to understand that
Mhm.
goal to meet their expectations and exceed their expectations.
Well, just listen to them of what their wishes and desires to happen in that certain household, because every household is different. Some homes are non-kosher, some homes are kosher homes, and of course, you need to open up your mind, with the things that they have to tell you, and of course, that's what their wants and their desires are doing. You just have to follow it and listen to them carefully
You know, you said
and pay attention.
you said something that really like struck out: listening,
Yeah.
listening, and that's a skill that a lot of times we hear something, but we're
Mhm.
not listening. And I think that when you listen, that's really assertively paying attention to what they're saying, and that goes a long way.
Yeah, listening and observation is one of the key to be successful. And of course, your flexibility too as a caregiver.
So let's talk about the primary contact. With all of our clients, everybody has a primary contact. The primary contact is generally the person on their side that's in charge of the care. So
Mhm.
when we provide care to somebody, it's a multi-angled approach. I come in as the client liaison. We have the person who helped bring in the client. And then we have the primary contact, we have the caregiver, and a lot of times there's a whole care team.
Mhm.
So can you tell us a little bit about your role in working with the primary contact?
Number one, I think it's my primary role as the to connect with the primary contact is to report what has been happening, and of course the health and the condition of their loved ones, of course. So for doing that job, the things that I have to do is it's either text them with the reports, email them, or send a personal video to their family members. So that way they can still see and keep updated of what's happening with their loved ones while they're away
Yeah,
from
Michael
home.
made a lot of great points, and it's that follow up. If again, if this was my parents receiving the care and I paid to have a caregiver there, it's always great to have that communication and to say, today I came in and these are my observations, almost like a SWOT analysis. These are the strengths that are going on. These are the weaknesses. These
Hmm.
are the opportunities, and kind of these are the threats. This is what I'm a little bit concerned about. And I think that it's always better to go over the top with communication. Correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but it's always better to go over the top. And a lot of clients recognize us for that.
Yeah.
And then if they say, okay, I don't need to know as much, then you could reel it back down. But it's better than not communicating, right?
Yeah, that's true. But yet at the same time, you have a life of the person in you, because you're taking care of that person. So the loved ones of that person, they need to be at least informed of what's going on of their loved ones because they're away. So they have the rights to know.
Yeah. Staying in the know is very important.
Yeah,
And
and just keep the communication open as much as you can.
And in terms of communicating, what do you do? Do you send text messages? Do you call them? Or is it a mix? Or do you get to know them and ask them what they want?
Well, I I personally get to know them. Some of my clients' family, they prefer to receive text, either or both, email or sending a personal video messages.
Yeah, video messaging is great, sometimes helping facilitate that communication. But
Yes.
this might kind of be redundant, but let's go back over the best things that a caregiver can do. Um, you said making a connection. We talked about communicating.
Hmm.
Uh, is there anything else that I'm overlooking or that we haven't discussed before we move on?
Um, we've discussed everything pretty much.
Okay, so let's talk about now what are the worst things a caregiver can do. Uh, Again, these are things that we want to be conscious of in driving outstanding care. So, what do you think are the worst things a caregiver can do?
Not showing up on time.
Okay.
And one of the things that I've experienced is that non-logical gossiping about something that didn't really happen.
Yeah.
So if
I
you gossip, it has to be at least about the patient and wholeheartedly what's happening about your patient. So whatever your problem is that you will have to set it aside and then just take it outside and don't bring it to your workplace because it will affect your job performance.
Yeah, with not showing up on time, I know that a lot of the clients depend on us. So somebody might be hiring a caregiver because they work 9 to 5
Mhm.
and they're leaving for work, and they need that caregiver there to take care of their mom, dad, uncle
Mhm.
who has dementia or has a different condition. So if the caregiver's late, they can't leave. They
Mhm.
get very frustrated. We get that phone call. And then it also, when you say showing up on time, one thing that I think about is that that's the beginning of the shift. And a lot of times, if we get off to the right foot,
Mhm.
everything else is going to be right. But if we get off to the wrong foot, then it could be like a snowball in the wrong direction.
Mhm.
Did you want to add anything?
Well, at least if that particular caregiver is going to be late, I mean, that caregiver at least will be responsible of letting the other person know that she is going to be a little bit delayed on time. So that way, that particular caregiver that is on the shift, can at least extend his or her stay at the shift, or probably stay with that particular client for a couple of more minutes and inform that client that that particular caregiver is going to be late for a little bit and it should go
Yeah.
on.
Another thing that I was thinking about is that cell phones. We all have cell phones,
Mhm.
and what happens if you're with a client and you receive a phone call? How would you go about that?
The best thing that I can do is if it's something business call, like let's say from the office, I think I would excuse myself to my client for a moment and have that phone call in a secluded room. And if it's something personal for client, if it's like a family member, I would rather do the same thing too. But if it's like a light conversation about checking up on things, I would gladly just take it in front of my client if it's a family member.
Yeah, I think with the cell phone, it can be a tricky one because sometimes the office will call you,
It
and it
gets
might be
tricky.
important information. It might be the primary contact calling you. But I think what's really important to emphasize is that when you're working, uh, you only take work calls and you
Hmm.
don't take personal calls. I know that when I'm sitting here and I'm working, if I take a personal call, it could take me out of
Hmm.
my element, and we want to stay in our
Hmm.
element. Also, sometimes a caregiver might show up tired or just not be having a good day. We all have our great days, we all have our bad days. But,
Yeah.
how do you bounce back and make sure that we drive outstanding care?
Well, before coming in and into my job on a day-to-day basis, I always make sure to take care of myself first for anything else and prepare and just have a positive and optimistic mind, and whatever negativity that I have been going through for myself personally, I have to set it aside.
Yeah.
If I'm doing a job, I just have to just bring the positive energy to the clients that I am taking care with. No matter how hard the life is, I just have to just bring that positivity to my clients.
I think that that's such a great point. And, it's important for us to stay emotionally intelligent.
Yes.
Um, we're caring for somebody's life.
Hmm.
They're trusting us to take care of one of their loved ones, and we really owe it to them to drive that best care possible. I know that one of my tricks is that sometimes something might happen and it gets stuck in my head, and if it starts affecting my work or whatnot, I tell myself, Renan, put it down. I say it in my head, put it down, and that's my cue to just let it be and get back to where it is, because the work that I do, that's my signature. That's what I'm known for. And I
Exactly.
want to be
Hmm.
great. And I know that you want to be great. And we want all of our new caregivers to be great. So as we leave, are there any final words of wisdom that you would love to leave for our new care team coming on board?
That's something personal, that they have to figure it out themselves as they started their career of becoming a caregiver. Being a caregiver, it takes such a lot of compassion and patience, and of course, the understanding and the emotional intelligence. So the best advice that I can give to them is to do not bring their negativity. it at work or whatever it is.
Great. And as everybody comes on board, again, you're a part of a team. You're part of a wonderful team, and we strive for excellence. So throughout your journey, if you need any help, any advice, any support whatsoever, please reach out to the rest of the team.
Mhm.
We're definitely here to help. And
Absolutely.
again, I want to welcome everybody who's coming on board. Michael, again, I want to thank you for having joined us today. I want to thank you for all the great work that you've done. And till next time, my name is Renan with Michael, and wish everybody a wonderful day.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you.